All right, honors, here are the answers to your quiz. Actually, your questions might be out of order slightly, so make sure you are paying attention to which question it is I'm talking about and compare it to your list. But on this number one, what we had to realize was if we wanted circumference, in order to get circumference, I want to know either the diameter or the radius. I can do pi times 2 times radius, or I can do pi times diameter. They didn't give me either, but they did give me the area. Now, if the area formula is pi r squared, and they tell me the area is 900 pi, I can substitute that in and solve and find the radius. The pi's can divide out on both sides. I can take the square root of r squared. I can also take the square root of 900. That would get me a radius of 30. If I have a radius of 30, it means I'm going to have a circumference of pi times 2 times 30, which gets me a radius of 60 pi yards. Okay, hopefully we're good on number one. Number two, find the area of the parallelogram. Well, being a parallelogram, the formula is going to be base times height. When we're talking about the base of a parallelogram, we're talking about the full side of a parallelogram. The height is always going to be perpendicular to that base. So this in here, hopefully you can see my pen, this right here is going to be my height. Notice it's perpendicular to the entire base. The entire base is going to be 20. The height is what's unknown. And I'm using this to find the area. So in order to find the area, I need to know the height. We can find this height by acknowledging that they gave me this little chunk is 5, and this side, the hypotenuse to the right triangle, is 13. So I can either memorize my Pythagorean triples, or I can do a little side work and do Pythagorean theorem. I can do 5 squared plus my height squared should equal 13 squared. That's 25 plus h squared is equal to 169. Subtract the 25, I get 144. And if I take the square root, I find that my height is 12. So now I can find my area. 12 times 20 is going to give me an area of 240 squared units. Okay, hopefully we're good on number 2. Number 3. Find the base of a rectangle if the area is this and the height is that. Again, area is base times height for a rectangle. So now we substitute in what we know. The area is 24x squared plus 8x. The base is what we want. The height is 4x. In order to identify what the base is by itself, we need to get rid of that 4x. And since this is multiplication, we can divide by 4x. So when I divide this whole thing by 4x, it means every single piece gets divided because this is addition in here. So 24x squared divided by 4x gives 6x, plus 8x divided by 4x gives me 2. So that's where we have 6x plus 2 as our result for the base. Number 4. Find the area of a kite. So pause, if we're dealing with the kite area, I know I'm going to be looking at diagonal 1 times diagonal 2, divide by 2. They tell me one diagonal is 5x plus 3, so 5x plus 3 is one diagonal. The other diagonal is 3x minus 2. And so when I go and solve this, I need to do double distribution or FOIL. 5x times 3x is 15x squared. 5x times negative 2 gives me minus 10x. 3 times 3x is plus 9x. And then 3 times negative 2 is minus 6. Still divide by 2, don't forget that part. And now we simplify by combining like terms. So we have 15x squared minus 1x minus 6 divide by 2. When I divide that by 2, I'm going to get choice 1, 7.5x squared minus 1 over 2x minus 3. Number 5. What is the height of the trapezoid if the area is 126 squared centimeters? Okay, so we're dealing with the trapezoid, which means, and the area of a trapezoid, so I want this formula. The 1/2 times the sum of the bases times the height, and then we start substituting in what we know. The bases are always going to be the parallel sides, and if you look at the diagram, they're giving you the little arrow symbols that show you the two parallel sides. Those sides are 10 and 18. The height is what we're looking for. It's going to be, in this case, segment DE. That's the measure between the two bases. And they also give us the area, so they know that, they tell us that we can basically substitute the A with 126. From here, I want to solve for H. So to solve for H, I start to simplify. I have 126 equals 1/2 times 28 times H, which means I have 126 equals 14 times H. And when I do 126 divided by 14 to get H alone, I have, what did I do wrong? Oh, nothing. I just typed it in the calculator wrong. I get 9 centimeters. I don't know why it just got so big, but that one was 9 centimeters. Next one. Which shape does the following formula apply to? Well, it's taught to you as being the formula for a kite. Your notes did also specify that it works for a rhombus, and being a rhombus, and it does also mention in the notes, this also applies to a square. While this question was worth 3 points, you did earn a point for every one of those check marks that you checked off. Number 7. What is the perimeter of this pentagon? So you just needed to add up all sides. If I look to all of the x terms, I know that I have 3x plus 2x plus 1x. So I know I have a total of 6 x's, so that leaves me already down to either choice 1 or 2. In addition to that, I have a 12 and another 12 plus 3 minus 1. So if I have 12 plus 12, that's 24, plus another 3 is 27, minus the 1, I have 6x plus 26. Number 8. Area of the triangle. So we want to use the formula of base times height divided by 2. Base and height, just like any other shape, need to be perpendicular to each other, where the base is one side of the shape. So in this case, I could consider the x plus 1 to be the base. That's the side of the triangle, and then that gets multiplied with the height that's perpendicular to it, which is x minus 1. Oops. Once again, if I have a binomial times a binomial, I need to FOIL. So I have x times x gives me x squared, x times negative 1 is minus x, 1 times x is plus x, and then 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Combine like terms, I have x squared minus 1 because these two guys cancel each other out. But don't forget that's still divided by 2. So your final answer here should be that x squared minus 1 divided by 2. 2 more questions left. Number 9. What is the perimeter of this rhombus? Well, being a rhombus, while I can consider it a parallelogram and look at the base times height formula, I look at this diagram and say, wait, I have no idea what the base and height are here. So actually, scratch that. My apologies. We're looking for the perimeter. So that means I actually want the measure of the sides. So if I want to add up all the sides, I need to know what the sides are worth. And what's important to remember when it comes to a rhombus is that all the sides are congruent. So in order to find the sides, I can use the pieces of these diagonals. So if I look at one of these triangles, it does remind us that the rhombus's diagonals are perpendicular. So I have a side of 8, I have a side of 15, and I can use that in the Pythagorean theorem to find the hypotenuse, which is the side of the rhombus. So 8 squared plus 15 squared equals my side squared. 8 squared is 64. Oops, that's a yucky 6. Plus my 15 squared, which is 225. 64 plus 225 gives me 289. When I square root to get s alone, means I square root the 289, and that gives me that my side measure is 17. So if one side is 17, all sides are 17. And 17 times 4 sides gives me a perimeter of 68. Last question, number 10. What is the area of the remaining pizza? So first and foremost, if 42 degrees of 360 degrees were taken out, that means I'm left with 318 degrees out of the full 360 degree circle, right? If I'm looking for how much pizza remains after this slice was removed. It's a 12-inch pie, and the hint reminds us that when we're talking about pies and we're told how many inches the pie is, we're being given the diameter. Now, if I want the area of this piece, I'm going to start off with finding the area of the whole thing, and that means pi times radius squared. If the diameter is 12, it means the radius is 6. So technically, the area of the entire pie before the slice was removed was equivalent to 36 pi. But again, we're not looking for the entire pie. We're looking for just this fraction of the pie, 318 degrees out of the full 360. So I'm going to combine that. 36 times 318 divided by 360 tells me that my area is equal to 31.8 pi inches squared. Okay, so hopefully you're good on that. Let me know if you have questions. Take a look at your results and see where you went wrong. And that's it. Have a great day.